So if you can have a guy that's in the audience that's yelling, I shot him, now shot me, I shot him, now shot me, and then that guy gets arrested for child charges, like he's like, what is going on here?
But there was something else going on here. Epstein was not some sort of whiz kid hedge fund manager. Epstein was playing a part. Epstein was a LARPer. Epstein was cast for a specific role, and he played it really well.
I don't necessarily think they know what's going on yet. There's a lot of weird going on with this.
I know.
None of these things make any sense to me. Like, you're telling me that this kid who's not military trained, this guy, first of all, how did he get to the roof? How come nobody was looking? How come nobody was like, there's a direct line of sight between where he's sitting and those roofs? You guys didn't check? You don't have a drone? Like, that's insane. So he's on the roof. He jumps from the roof. He jumps down.
Episode isn't a verdict. It's commentary on a storm that's already raging online. Joe Rogan's latest reaction clip has poured gasoline on a timeline fans were already calling impossible to follow. And now fresh chatter about Charlie Kirk's widow is setting every feed on fire.
In the scenes.
It's a coincidence. Hold on to that thought. Did you know that Charlie Kirk's father, Robert W. Kirk, was actually the architect for Trump Towers? Also, did you know that Erica Lane Kirk won Miss Arizona USA in 2012? Don't forget, Donald Trump ran Miss America from 1996 until 2015. Seeing the correlation here? Now, not saying age difference is a big thing, but did you know Erica was 5 years Charlie Sr.? But this is where coincidences aren't. Well, this was so arranged. And there's so much more to Erica Kirk. Kind of like how she was all into basketball, didn't want to be all girly, never liked to dress up, even cut all her hair off, and ended up being Miss USA. How does that happen? How do you go from sports to Miss USA? And then they meet at a turning point event in 2018, where she's interviewing for a job.
We're looking at claims, contradictions, and eyebrow-raising moments people say don't line up hand. That's the point. Reports are emerging. Theories are colliding, and no one agrees on what the real story is. 1 second, it's talk of missing footage. The next, it's a cryptic post that sparks 1,000 threads.
Spotless and new.
I almost texted you when the Charlie Kirk thing happened because my antennas went up about, they showed the photo of that kid, or the guy that they have, the 22-year-old,
Yeah.
whatever. And I was almost going to be like, dude, you think he's got the capability to do that?
Yeah, well, listen, there are people that look like that have the capability to do that.
Pretty
Yes.
accurate.
Nope.
No?
Not hard. Not hard at
Not
all.
hard.
Let me dispel that. Let me
Okay.
dispel that. Okay. 200 yards from a prone position with a dead-on rifle. So if you have a dead-on rifle, so you set this rifle, you set your 0 to 200 yards, right? You know how far you're going to. It is not hard at all.
He shot a lot.
You don't have to shoot a lot.
So
I could do it tomorrow.
If you're no, but you are experienced. If it's someone that's never could they do it?
100%. Not if
Really?
they've never. They wouldn't know where to look. They'd have a hard time acquiring the like when you look through a scope, like with the reticle is weird. Like it's sometimes
Takes a
hard.
minute.
You got to know the distance that you have to be from it to really line it up in your sights. But you could get a guy like my friend Andy Stumpf, who was a sniper in the SEALs. You could get him, and he could show you how to do it in an afternoon, and then you could hit steel at 200 yards every time you pull the trigger.
One day you could learn.
Yeah,
that. Wow.
yeah, not that hard.
Because it feels insane to me. I'm like, that
No.
seems tough.
It seems tough. It seems tough. We still haven't figured out whether or not the gun that Trump had a sight on it, because we weren't sure if it had a sight on it or if this guy was using iron sights. That was 140 yards. If you shot with iron sights, that's a lot harder, because iron sights is you're lining up. So you have these two things in the back and there's one thing at the front of the barrel, and
Right.
you got to line those up perfectly, and that's how you stay accurate. That is a lot harder to do.
It's like old have those, right?
Sure,
Yeah.
pistols.
Yeah,
Like
pistols
you
got
buy a
them.
Glock,
Yeah.
that's what it comes with.
Right.
But this kid had a rifle with a scope. Now here's where it gets weird. The first images of this rifle with a scope, I swear to God, it looks like he has a composite stock on it. Like it looks like a modern 30-06 rifle. So a 30-06, so that's the rifle. 30-06 is like, that looks like a very modern looking stock. I mean, it might not be. It might be just a bad resolution. It might be wood. It's hard to tell. But if you showed me that and you said, hey, this is my cousin's rifle, is this any good? I'd be like, looks like a standard bolt action rifle, looks like a sophisticated modern scope on it. Sure. Now, apparently, the narrative is that this is his grandfather's rifle from World War I and doesn't have a serial code.
Does any of this make sense? A stunned commenter asks. Another fires back. It's all theater, watch the details. Here's what we're doing tonight. We're tracing the internet's loudest whispers. The clips everyone's forwarding, and the reactions that have fans split down the middle. We're not declaring what happened. We're examining why so many people think something doesn't add up, and why Rogan's on-air response turned speculation into a headline. If you've seen the snippets, you've felt the jolt, a polished tribute that some viewers called to perfect, a timeline that keeps wobbling, and a chorus asking, what's missing? Buckle up. The drama is public, the questions are multiplying, and the conversation is only getting louder when Joe Rogan first addressed the story on his podcast. The tone was calm, almost skeptical. But you could sense that something about the entire situation didn't sit right with him. He began with that signature pause, leaning forward into the mic as if trying to untangle a knot that everyone else had chosen to ignore. None of this makes sense, he said quietly, and those 5 words echoed through every corner of the internet. It wasn't the usual wild theory talk, it felt more like genuine confusion. The story surrounding Charlie Kirk's sudden passing had already been picked apart online, but now, with new chatter about his widow and odd inconsistencies, people were listening differently. Fans replayed the clip, catching Rogan's puzzled tone, and soon timelines were flooded with reactions.
And guess who got tagged in it?
This is just a narrative, right?
Yeah.
We watch a guy jump off the roof, and then we supposedly find this rifle. So if you can have a guy that's in the audience that's yelling, I him, now me, I him, now me, and then that guy gets arrested for child charges, like what is going on here? And then you find this rifle, and then you say, oh, he assembled it and he reassembled it. Like, okay.
One viewer wrote, when Joe says something doesn't add up, you pay attention, while another commented, it feels like a movie that's missing its last act. Interview 113, 204, that was the moment things truly spiraled. Within hours, multiple podcasts and commentators started dissecting the same details Joe had mentioned. Questions about security gaps, strange behavior at the scene, and conflicting witness statements began trending again. Screenshots of online discussions appeared everywhere, highlighting details that had gone unnoticed before. People pointed out how one report described an old rifle, while another showed an image of what looked like a modern scoped weapon. Even more confusing was the description of how someone could have positioned themselves on a rooftop unnoticed. In a world obsessed with cameras and live streaming, how had no one caught that movement? Joe didn't claim to know the answer, but his curiosity alone reignited a fire that hadn't burned out since the story. First broke, then came the social media reaction. Clips of his discussion were uploaded and reshared thousands of times, each one sparking new debates. One half of the audience insisted that he was simply asking questions, while the other half accused online creators of adding fuel to an already chaotic story. But the biggest surprise came when another major name liked a series of posts discussing the same topic. It wasn't a direct comment, just a small digital gesture, but it was enough to send speculation into overdrive. Fans started saying that maybe there was more going on.
He dropped.
Sickening is definitely the right adjective, I think, to describe how a lot of us are feeling. And all I know how to do is to gather information, to research, and to investigate. And nothing is making sense. Now, it could not be making sense because we've not arrived at the conclusion. The FBI, I will say, has recently come out and said they're looking for another person. Good, because what we have so far obviously cannot be it. I feel, I was insisting that everybody read that book, Chaos, about the Charles Manson murders. And what we learn from that book is that if the government does want to hide something, what they do is they give you so much information that you can't you don't even know what's real. So many different possible ways that things could have gone down, so many different manners, so many people speaking, so many publications publishing. And it's just meant to be chaotic, to drive you crazy and to just go, okay, I'm just going to accept whenever the authority says something and not prod any further. We can't allow that to happen here. I won't allow that to happen here because this something terrible has traumatized the world, okay? And I feel as though when it comes to this, the media, the government, the talking heads, everyone is confusing us about what actually took place with Charlie Kirk, this event, how it got set up.
Going on behind the scenes that maybe people in high circles were beginning to take notice. Online threads exploded with timestamps, supposed coincidences, and freeze frames of the original incident. Everyone wanted to be the first to find a clue. As discussions got louder, attention shifted toward Charlie's widow. People were divided between sympathy and suspicion. In one clip circulating online, she appeared emotional yet composed, addressing a small crowd during a memorial. The way she spoke steady, deliberate, and occasionally glancing at the cameras had some calling it a heartfelt tribute, while others claimed it looked rehearsed. One comment read, "She's grieving. Let her be," while another countered, "That's not grief. That's performance." The divide deepened as influencers picked up the topic, turning it into an internet-wide debate about authenticity and image. Was she trying to stay strong or trying to control the narrative? No one agreed. Interview 228-504 Joe's own fans. Ever the investigators began digging deeper into old interviews and appearances. They found clips where Charlie had joked about never being afraid to speak his mind, no matter the backlash. That single line, "If I believe something's wrong, I'll call it out," started trending again, reshared alongside captions like "he knew" and foreshadowing. Emotions ran high across every platform. One fan wrote, "I can't believe this is real," while another said, "The way this keeps unfolding feels staged." What was once a private tragedy had turned into a full-blown online spectacle. And every new rumor added another layer of confusion. Joe's show had become the center point of a narrative that refused to calm down. It wasn't just about the details anymore. It was about the mood, the sense that too many things were happening at once, and none of them lined up neatly. From missing footage to conflicting witness descriptions, from strange tweets to late-night podcast rants, the puzzle only grew more tangled. Fans described the whole thing as a digital maze, where every turn revealed another contradiction. And through it all, Joe's simple observation lingered. None of this makes sense. Those words became the headline that wouldn't fade. As the internet continued to swirl with theories, people began asking an even bigger question. If the story was really that straightforward, why did it feel so carefully controlled? The comment sections didn't quiet down, they multiplied. And the sense of unease only deepened. The next wave of attention hit when a short clip surfaced showing a man in the background. During the original event, behaving oddly just moments before everything unfolded. The video was shaky, recorded on someone's phone. But the detail that caught everyone's attention was the man's sudden outburst. He shouted something strange, something that sounded like "I did it before." At first, people thought it was edited or taken out of context. But then multiple witnesses online confirmed hearing similar words. That single moment sent social media spiraling. Hashtags appeared overnight, threads filled with slowed-down versions of the footage. And everyone started debating whether it was a distraction, a coincidence, or something far more deliberate. Joe Rogan brought it up briefly during his next show, shaking his head as he said, "It's almost like we're watching a play." The comment stuck. People clipped it, captioned it, and spread it across platforms until "we're watching a play" became the internet's new obsession. The situation only got stranger when people began noticing edits in early reports. Articles were quietly updated, a few sentences disappeared, and timelines seemed to shift. Screenshots of before and after versions circulated widely, with users highlighting every subtle change. Why would anyone change wording after publication? One user asked, and others piled on. For many, it confirmed their belief that something deeper was being concealed. This was when the focus began to shift toward the missing. SD cards footage that supposedly existed but had never been released. A producer close to the team spoke up in a late-night stream, saying that several cards had been misplaced right after the event, and no one knew how or when they vanished. Within hours, the clip exploded online. Fans demanded answers. Creators started live stream investigations. And amateur analysts began studying every remaining second of available video for clues. As the online frenzy built, someone unearthed a fragment of Charlie's final interviews. In it, he discussed the importance of transparency and how truth always finds its way out eventually. That, quote, paired with the missing footage narrative, felt too perfect to ignore. Viewers flooded the comment sections, saying it sounded almost prophetic. The emotions were raw shock, anger, confusion all blending into an unstoppable stream of speculation. It's eerie, one person wrote, like he knew people would hide something. The conversation snowballed into something far bigger than anyone anticipated. Talk shows began mentioning it cautiously, always with the disclaimer that nothing had been verified. But they couldn't deny the public fascination. Every day, new evidence surfaced, new interpretations were born, and the line between fact and rumor blurred beyond recognition. Interview 647-714. Then, unexpectedly, Elon Musk joined the digital storm not through words, but through timing. A few minutes after Joe's podcast clip went viral, Musk posted one cryptic sentence: "The truth doesn't hide forever." That single phrase detonated like a bomb. Users across platforms linked it instantly to the situation, convinced he was referencing the same unfolding mystery. Screenshots of his post-filled timelines. Commentators began analyzing the timing, saying it couldn't be coincidence. "He knows more," wrote one user. "He's signaling something," claimed another. Memes, theories, and reaction videos flooded every corner of the internet. And just when the discussion seemed to reach its peak, people noticed Musk had liked a handful of posts from other commentators questioning the official reports. One of those posts came from a well-known media personality who suggested that the full story behind Charlie's passing might never reach the public eye. The digital wildfire reignited instantly amid the chaos. Rogan kept his distance, clarifying that he wasn't making accusations, only observing inconsistencies. But that didn't stop people from connecting dots on their own. The overlap between his remarks and Musk's mysterious tweet became the core of 1,000 new theories. The idea that powerful people were hinting at hidden truths gripped viewers like a serialized drama. "It's like everyone's part of the same show," one fan commented under a viral clip. Others agreed, saying it felt like an unfolding mystery too calculated to be random. By now, the story had escaped the boundaries of simple commentary. It was an evolving online event, constantly reshaped by tweets, edits, and fan investigations. And in the middle of it all stood Joe Rogan, the accidental catalyst, whose quiet curiosity had somehow set the entire internet ablaze. As days turned into weeks, the frenzy refused to die down. The internet had become a full-time investigation board, with users connecting dots that might not even exist. Screenshots, voice notes, and exclusive leaks were posted every hour, each one claiming to reveal a new piece of the puzzle. Then came the alleged text messages screenshots said to be from the main suspect, a 22-year-old named Tyler Robinson. They were released by prosecutors as supposed evidence, but the moment they hit social media, everything exploded again. People began to notice that the texts didn't sound natural. The sentences were stiff, the emojis were misplaced, and the phrasing felt like someone older pretending to sound young. Within hours, hashtags calling them scripted or fake were trending everywhere. Creators uploaded side-by-side comparisons, showing how the same messages appeared slightly different across platforms. The more people analyzed, the stranger it became. Interview 9/15/1041 Joe Rogan's listeners flooded his comment section, asking him to weigh in again. One post read, "Joe needs to see these texts, he'll tear this apart," while another said, "This just proves what he was saying." Even though Rogan stayed quiet for a few days, the community around him filled the silence. Threads popped up dissecting punctuation, claiming the grammar patterns didn't match a 22-year-old speech. Others pointed out how oddly specific the messages were, as if they had been written for a script rather than sent in real time. And then another layer surfaced claimed that the timestamps didn't line up with the events they described. People began syncing them with the public timeline and noticed gaps, moments that couldn't have happened the way the text suggested. It was chaos disguised as analysis. The noise reached a fever pitch when Steve Bannon, a well-known commentator, addressed it on his show. His tone was direct but skeptical. He said the messages felt manufactured for convenience. Whether you believed him or not, it was enough to push the debate back into mainstream feeds. Now every outlet, big or small, was running segments titled "Questions Remain." The lines between commentary, conspiracy, and coverage blurred completely. Memes turned into diagrams. Threads turned into documentaries. And everyone wanted a say. "It's not about truth anymore," one viewer wrote on a viral post. "It's about who tells the most convincing version." Meanwhile, attention turned once again toward the missing SD cards. Charlie's longtime producer, Andrew Colt, confirmed during a late-night interview that the cards were indeed gone. His voice shook when he said it, almost like he'd been waiting to get it off his chest. "They were there 1 minute, then they weren't," he said. "Nobody saw anyone take them." That short clip went viral instantly. People froze frames of his expression, reading guilt, fear, or frustration into every blink. Within hours, the clip was everywhere: news channels, reaction videos, even parody accounts. Everyone was talking about what might have been on those missing cards. Was it harmless footage, or something too sensitive to show? While that was happening, Candace Owens took the stage in her own live stream. She leaned in close to the camera and claimed that Charlie had been pressured to promote messages he didn't agree with and that he refused. According to her, that refusal created tension behind the scenes. She even mentioned a note, allegedly written by Charlie, suggesting that someone close to him wasn't being honest. The audience froze. Comments poured in. Who was he talking about? Is she hinting at someone specific? Within minutes, screenshots of her stream flooded the internet. Some viewers believed every word. Others dismissed it as pure speculation. But either way, it kept the story burning. Influencers reacted in real time, gasping, shouting, arguing live on camera. It was pure digital theater, and the audience couldn't look away. Old clips of Charlie resurfaced again. This time, from an event months before everything happened. In one, he laughed with the audience, saying, "The truth has a funny way of finding daylight." Fans replayed that line over and over, claiming it was proof that he knew he was walking into something bigger. Some said it gave them chills. Others said it was coincidence, but everyone agreed it felt eerie in hindsight. By now, the collective obsession had shifted from sadness to fascination. People weren't just mourning, they were investigating, performing, theorizing. And through it all, Rogan's voice echoed like a refrain. None of this makes sense. Those words had become a rallying cry for millions of people who no longer trusted the story. They were being told the tension hit a breaking point when new footage emerged, blurred. Shaky video showing a man in the background of the memorial event, adjusting his hat right before the lights dimmed. On its own, it meant nothing. But in the chaos of speculation, it became everything. People slowed it down, zoomed in, compared angles, and debated for hours. "He's signaling something," one user claimed. "It's just lighting," another replied. Neither side backed down. The memorial itself became a symbol of division. Some viewers found it beautiful, others called it a performance. Every frame, every gesture, every tear was analyzed like evidence in an unsolved mystery. And somewhere in that noise, the line between truth and entertainment quietly disappeared as the noise reached its peak. It felt like the entire internet had turned into one enormous courtroom, with everyone acting as judge, jury, and witness. What began as a single podcast comment had spiraled into a cultural storm, one that no one seemed able or willing to stop. By this point, Charlie Kirk's widow had become the center of attention once again. A new video of her speaking at a private gathering started circulating online. And this time, the reactions were even more intense. In the clip, she stood beside a framed photo of Charlie, her voice calm, her eyes fixed on something just beyond the camera. The words she spoke were emotional, but strangely polished. "He stood for truth, and I'll continue his work," she said softly. To some, it was a beautiful tribute. To others, it felt like another performance. One viewer commented, "It's too perfect," like it was rehearsed, while another replied, "Maybe she's just trying to hold it together." Every second of that short clip became a talking point. Was she sincere, or was she trying to protect an image that someone else was directing? Soon after, fans noticed something else strange. A series of official posts from Charlie's foundation began appearing across social media with identical captions, all published at the exact same time. They expressed gratitude for public support, but avoided addressing any of the growing controversies. People started wondering who was running the account. Some said it was the team keeping things professional. Others said it was a calculated attempt to control the narrative. The mystery deepened when one post vanished minutes after going live. It was replaced with a different message that struck a completely different tone, shorter, colder, more distant. That brief moment of inconsistency reignited every theory imaginable. "Someone's managing her image," one fan insisted. Another countered, "She's grieving. Stop reading into everything." But the arguments kept coming, and each time she appeared in public, the scrutiny grew sharper. Joe Rogan eventually spoke about the reactions in a later episode, not to defend or accuse anyone, but to comment on the chaos itself. He said, "It's weird, man. It's like people don't even care what's true anymore. They just want a story that makes sense to them." His co-host agreed, adding that the internet had turned grief into spectacle. That segment hit home for many viewers who were starting to feel uneasy about how far things had gone. Comment sections began filling with people saying they were exhausted, that the constant speculation felt wrong. Still, others refused to let go, insisting that too many things had been brushed aside. Once again, Rogan's show became a mirror for the wider conversation, half empathy, half obsession. He ended that episode with a single line that spread everywhere within hours. "Some stories become entertainment before they ever become truth." It was meant as reflection. But online, it became another quote to debate, another soundbite to clip. Not long after, Candace Owens returned to the spotlight with another broadcast. This time revealing that new documents had surfaced financial records, she claimed, showing large, unexplained transfers linked to projects Charlie had recently discussed. She didn't provide details, only suggestions, leaving viewers to fill in the blanks themselves. The implication was enough to spark chaos again. Creators raced to upload reaction videos, all claiming to interpret the hidden meaning behind her statements. The words "follow the money" began trending overnight. Even though nothing concrete was proven, the rumor had already taken on a life of its own. Within a day, several outlets issued statements clarifying that the information was unverified. But by then, it didn't matter. The narrative had already written itself in the minds of millions. As the dust started to settle, the emotional tone shifted from shock to fatigue. Fans who had been glued to their screens began realizing how much time they had spent chasing theories. One comment on a viral video summed it up perfectly. We turned a tragedy into a TV show. Yet, despite the fatigue, no one could completely walk away. Each week, something new surfaced: a missing timestamp, an altered quote, a blurry photo, and the cycle restarted. One evening, during a quiet segment, a familiar voice broke through the noise. It was Andrew Colt again, the producer, speaking softly in an interview. "Maybe we'll never know everything," he said, "but I think people forgot he was human." He wasn't a headline. He was just him. The words hung in the air, pulling the conversation back to where it began, with grief, loss, and unanswered questions. The widow has since stepped out of the public eye, choosing silence over confrontation. Some call it strength, others call it strategy. And somewhere between podcasts, reaction videos, and endless hashtags, the truth remains blurred. Joe Rogan's curiosity, Musk's cryptic line, Owens's fiery claims, all of it created an echo that refuses to fade. People still ask what happened, though maybe they're not really looking for an answer anymore. Maybe they're chasing the feeling of discovery, the thrill of mystery that makes every refresh worth it. As the story stands now, nothing has been confirmed, yet nothing feels fully dismissed either. It's a digital paradox. The more you search, the less you find. But one line from Rogan keeps looping in every comment section, every post, every late-night discussion. None of this makes sense. And maybe that's exactly why no one can stop watching. Whatever side of the debate you're on, one thing's for sure, this story has captured the world's attention in a way no one expected. From Joe Rogan's puzzled reaction to the missing footage, to the widow's divided reception and the cryptic social media posts that keep surfacing, every detail feels like another piece of a puzzle no one can quite finish. People are still arguing, new theories keep popping up, and the truth remains as elusive as ever. Maybe it's just coincidence. Maybe it's something deeper, but it's clear that the conversation isn't slowing down anytime soon. And now, we want to hear from you. Do you think all of this is just internet overanalysis? Or do you believe there's more to this story than meets the eye? Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell us what stood out to you most. Was it the missing SD cards, the strange text messages, or that eerie line about truth not hiding forever? Make sure you hit the like button if you're just as curious as we are. And subscribe for more updates, reactions, and deep dives into the stories everyone's talking about. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss what comes next, because if the past few weeks have taught us anything, it's that the next twist could drop at any moment. Stay tuned, stay alert, and remember, sometimes the biggest mysteries are the ones playing out right in front of us.